Hello and welcome to the 84th gathering of the Adventure Party on this, the 5th of November, 2017. I'm your party leader, Brad Ludwig. We ask that you peace tie your swords, holster your blasters, and have your con badges at the ready while you are gathered at the meeting table. Also, no gunpowder plots at the table, please.
Damn it.
Sorry. This meeting of the Adventure Party is brought to you by our Patreon partners, Brian Jensen, Amy Cantwell, Amy Frost, Growly Bear, Jackie Hearn, and JF Dubow. We'll tell you more how you can become a partner of the Galactic Netcast Network a little later on in the show. That voice that you heard, as always, Glenn Bittner. He's a movie reviewer, movie maker, movie reviewer, which I already said, but he does it so often. He does it on multiple shows. You have to say it twice. He's got a YouTube show called The B-Movie Bunker, and he created a little RPG called Mistrunner, and is currently ironing out stuff for the prequel called
Demon Eater.
There you go. How you doing, Glenn?
I'm doing pretty good.
Excellent. And you, sir, just got back from Gamehole Con in lovely Madison, Wisconsin. How was that?
It was fun.
Was it delightful?
I would say so. I wasn't there for the whole weekend. I was there Friday. And
Okay.
then Saturday, I was off at another little mini gathering called Splatterfest.
Oh, boy, you get to indulge in both of your loves on the same weekend.
Yes.
You're like a convention Lothario. How was True Dungeon on Friday?
I don't know.
Oh, you didn't get to go. Oh, crap.
There was a miscommunication with Pat and the Two Dungeon people, so they did not have the late session. So they ended up doing one on Saturday night, but I was not in Madison. I was in Zonia.
Crap, dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I still got to hang out with people I don't get to see that often. I still got to play a couple of games, so that was cool.
For those of you that may not have listened to the show before, we do know Pat Rothfuss. He's written some books you may have heard of, and he has teamed up with the True Dungeon folks, and they came to Gamehole Con in Madison this weekend, and they were doing they did a special midnight run of the dungeon that was a little more NC-17 rated. They had a PG run earlier in the day on Friday. The original schedule was the PG version earlier in the day, and then the NC-17 later that same night on Friday. That didn't pan out, and they did the NC-17 later on Saturday instead. So unfortunately, Glenn was on the list to do it on Friday, but with the snafu, you, alas, were not able to do True Dungeon. I'm sorry. Because that was, yeah, that was going to be, and the reason why it's kind of a big deal is, well, it was related to Pat's books.
Yes.
The King Killer Chronicles. So, yeah. I'm sorry, dude. That's
sorry. I mean, instead of doing that and playing that game, I got to just spend. I was hanging out with Pat and Endo. Who else was there?
Did you get to hang out with?
Yeah, Andy and a bunch of those guys, and we hung out till I didn't get home from Madison until 5 in the morning.
Oh, jeez.
So,
and
yeah.
That's about 3 hours away, 3.5
for me.
Yeah.
No, it's about an hour and 15 minutes.
why do I think that Milwaukee's that much further away from? I don't know.
It is for you if you're driving from Wausau to Madison to Milwaukee.
Yeah, well, yeah, there is that. Yeah, because Madison's like 2.5.
Yeah, it's only about 80, a little over 80 miles for me.
Yeah. Anyways, enough of geography of Wisconsin. Let's move on to what we normally do, which is our roundtable game review, a bit of game news, and we're going to talk about, oddly enough, small gaming conventions. Gamehole Con, obviously being top of mind because that happened this weekend, but some other things that Glenn wants to talk about based on his experiences. Being the manager of a gaming store, he gets to attend a number of conventions throughout the year. So he's got some words of wisdom to drop on us this time around. So he's going to have the floor. Speaking of having the floor, we always start out with a game review from Glenn, and you have a game that the topic alone, what it's based off of, has me excited. And I think that we talked about this as a Kickstarter, did we not?
We might have.
It was one of our Kickstarter spotlights, and I know I've seen a number of videos on this. It made a lot of tours to international conventions, and the whole gameplay of this thing, if you see videos of this, I'm really teasing the hell out of this. If you see playthrough videos of this, it's an amazing game. And that game's name is?
It is Geography of Wisconsin. No, just.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
no
best game ever.
Mountains of Madness. This is published by ELO Games. Made by Rob Devio. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong. He hasn't done anything that anyone really knows aside from, he's worked on Betrayal at House on the Hill, Pandemic Legacy, Seafall, Risk Legacy. Just nothing big. This one is for 3 to 5 players, runs about 60 to 90 minutes, and retails for $40. It is based off of the H.P. Lovecraft Mountains of Madness. It's a fully cooperative game where you are part of a scientific expedition going up this rather intriguing mountain range in the middle of the Antarctic Polar Circle. And you have to overcome various challenges and then eventually escape, all the while going mad. Sounds fun, doesn't it?
For those of you who are not indoctrinated into H.P. Lovecraft, sanity is not guaranteed in the stories or any games related to H.P. Lovecraft properties. And the whole concept of this game and how it plays is absolutely wonderful in the videos that I've seen. Can you give us a bit of a run through?
Yeah, so as you're making your way up the mountain, every time you move on to a new space, you have to overcome some challenges. And those challenges require specific items. So it'll be a number and then a type of item. So it might be like 7 to 9 tools or 8 to 10 weapons. Or it could be an exact number. It might just say 13 supplies. And those numbers, you have to play cards from your hand. And you will have cards like I might have a 2 weapon and a 4 crate and say a 5 book and a 4 book. And I play these cards from my hand to that expedition. You want to hit those numbers correctly, because if it says 7 to 9 books, you have to have 7 to 9. If you have 6, you fail. If you have 10, you fail. It's 7 to 9. If you succeed, most of these things will have 2 challenges on them. Some will have 3, but if you succeed at least one of them, you get the reward for that tile. It could be that you get to heal injuries, which pile up into your draw deck, which kind of sucks because they're useless cards. You could get to see different ruins. You can get special, basically magical artifacts that basically are 10, like a 10 supply or a 10 book, like the Necronomicon. So they're very useful items for later in the game. You can also get different madnesses. And the madnesses is what really gives this game a unique feel. Man, this is definitely not a game going to be for everyone because it does get a little goofy and it can be very challenging. You have 3 levels of madnesses, and I mean some can be as mundane as there was one where and the madness only manifests during the challenge phase, during the expedition challenge. One is at the start of it, you have to shake everyone else's hand. There's one where you can't use your thumbs. As you get more and more mad, as you get different higher level madnesses, it becomes more and more challenging. There was one where if anyone says the word tools, you have to yell, throw your hand down, and not do anything the rest of the turn.
Oh, jeez.
I had one that I could not give tickets to the expedition leader unless everyone else had their eyes closed or their back turned to me.
Oof.
And what makes this harder is you might just say, well, okay, I might just say, well, everyone close your eyes, and that's why I can do this. I can't do that. I can't tell people what my madness is. They have to figure it out on their own.
Yep. And as I recall, they stack up. Or there is the possibility that they could stack up.
They replace. So you replace a weaker one with a higher one.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. If you had to do 3 things at once, it'd be insane.
Yeah, well.
I mean beyond the normal.
I was just gonna say yeah. Lovecraft.
But yeah, I've played it 3 times now. I've won once. We've lost twice. Once we died on the mountain. Well, I didn't actually say we died. It's basically, 10 years later, some other expedition finds our frozen corpses. So
yeah.
The other one we got away, but we had too many injuries in our draw deck, so we didn't actually win. We got off the mountain, but we, pretty much went crazy and probably died later.
Yeah. This doesn't sound as difficult as Samurai. What is the Samurai one?
Samurai Spirit?
Yeah, Samurai Spirit.
It's a different kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easy because, when you're not on the actual challenge, you can't talk about what's in your hand. I can't say, oh, I got this 4 weapons and this 5 of books. You can't say that, except you can only talk about your hand while you're in the expedition, which is timed. It's 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
To do that.
There's an egg timer.
Yeah.
Used.
But the tricky part is that there are a lot of different madnesses that won't let you talk about the numbers, or even say like, I had one where I could not refer to things as their keyword, like book or tool, because everything has a title, like what it is. So it's a tool, but it's a wrench, or it's a book, or which is actually research notes. I can only refer to it as its title, not its keyword. So like, we need books, and I can be like, I've got pencils, because I can't say books. So I'm just like, I've got pencils, I've got research notes. I can't say how much I have, or you have to figure out that I mean books when I'm saying pencils. So yeah, it gets really tricky, because then you start getting the ones where it's like you end up putting too much stuff in, and then you're over on the thing. And not only now do you fail, but you've also wasted all those freaking cards.
So a lot of this is basically resource and madness management. The one question that I had, and since you played it a number of times, does having a working knowledge of especially the story, Mountains of Madness from Lovecraft, does that help at all?
Not really. Not at all. You don't need to know the story at all.
Okay, so it's the theme, and you can probably glean.
There's some things where it's nifty to know. It's like, what's the big deal with, so we ran into penguins, so what? If you read the story, you'd know that they're not normal penguins. But
no.
But still, it's not necessary to enjoy the game.
Okay. No, that's really cool. And how many people does it play again?
3 to 5.
Okay. And it runs for approximately
$40.
Okay. So high replayability?
I think so. There's a lot of different madnesses you can have.
Sure. Okay. So $40 for a highly replayable game. That's based on our working criteria over the years of doing this show. That's pretty damn good. Have they talked about any expansions? Do you think that there could be expansions?
There could be. They haven't talked. I haven't heard talk of anything yet.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Well, thank you for that review of the game Mountains of Madness. Speaking of madness, you know what's crazy? Glenn.
I am. But what else?
That's what I was waiting for. The prices of dice at Adventure I'm sorry, at Die Hard Dice. They've restocked once more, and they've got a lot of good quality dice that don't cost an arm and a leg. You can get metal dice for a very reasonable cost, as opposed to other places which, quite honestly, they charge double what Die Hard Dice does for quality metal dice. We've got to contact Todd to have him on again. But we have a very good relationship with Todd, so much so that he has a coupon code, Adventure Party, all one word. And if you visit dieharddice.com and check out their dice, they have individual dice. It's six-siders. But they do have, and they're constantly growing their stock and their the choices that you have for different dice sets. They have, full-on D6. They don't have just metal dice. They do have plastic polyhedral dice as well. You got to check them out. dieharddice.com, and if you use the coupon code Adventure Party, all one word, at checkout, you can get 10% off of your order. So please check out dieharddice.com. Now, the news. I saw this and I just about lost my mind. We did talk about this game. It was a Kickstarter. And it is it's called The Thing Infection at Outpost 31. And this was kind of a big deal Kickstarter, and I really wanted to get on board with it, but unfortunately I didn't have enough extra cash to get on board with this. But secretly, I want to be Elijah Wood. He's reached a point in his career where he can just kind of really pick and choose his projects that he wants to do. Why is that important? Does that seem like a weird segue, mentioning Elijah Wood? Well, they actually got Elijah Wood to do a rundown for the rules for The Thing Infection at Outpost 31. And it is a walkthrough video on how to play the game. And Elijah Wood, I got to share this because there we go. They did a green screen with Elijah Wood, and he does the he does the rundown of the game, and
it's not Elijah Wood, that's Steve.
I'm sorry.
He's a research assistant at the base.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's a fun video.
It's a great video. And it's a really interesting game. And I can't even remember what episode that we talked about it, but you and I are fans of the movie, the original The Thing, with Kurt Russell and Keith David and Wilford Brimley. It such a traumatizing movie to watch. Excellent sci-fi, and yeah, these folks put together a game on it, and it is very much full on what the movie and what the the original book, Who Goes There, from which that movie is based on. Yeah, you get to if you click the link that we'll provide in the show notes, you'll be able to check out his video on the run through for the game. And yes, he is playing the character Steve, but it is quite spectacular. Quite spectacular. Is that actual news? It's Elijah Wood. To me, that's newsworthy. I'm sorry, and we're talking about a board game based on The Thing. It is like I said, it was a Kickstarted game, but they're now taking pre-orders, which is kind of why they're doing the video of how to play, and the suggested retail on it is $44.99. You can go to miniaturemarket.com and you can find the game. That's where the link on the Nerdist website ships you to in their story that they covered it. I'm sorry, the regular.
You can buy it at my store right now.
Oh, you can. Oh, nice.
Got it.
Okay, so they say the regular price is $59.95. They have a special price of $44.99. Like we always say, try to get your stuff locally. Support your local game shop. If you are in the boondocks and nowhere near a game shop, then check it out online, I guess. I didn't realize that USAopoly was the one that put that out. I totally spaced on that. Totally spaced on that. The art.
It's not their normal type of game. Well, it's starting to be, because they did this, and last year they did the Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, so they're starting to get into some actual real hobby games now.
Okay. Well, that's cool. It pays to diversify.
Yes,
absolutely. So yeah. Elijah Wood, picking and choosing the stuff that he wants to do, and did something for USAopoly to promote the basically how to play The Thing Infection at Outpost 31. And we got that story from Nerdist.com. All right. Yeah. See, if you enjoy things like that here on the Adventure Party, and you'd like to just more than subscribe to the show, please consider becoming a partner with us. You can go to gncasts.com/support and click on the Patreon link. We have different levels, all with rewards at $1, $3, and $5 a month. And you can also get your name mentioned on our show, like we kicked off the show with, and receive a bonus podcast, which we now have from Peter Fisher, who, puts together a great show for us. Or even having a whole message that you would like us to read could be read by one of us on a show. So again, to become a partner with us, you can go to gncasts.com/support. All right. Last week's Kickstarter spotlight was the Ruins of Glendale Village tabletop gaming terrain for $25. Now, as we said, this was a what's great is they're talking about fulfilling shipments that will be sent out starting December. So in just about 4 to 5 weeks. So you could possibly have gotten this because it's now ended but you would be able to get this in time for Christmas. And they had painted and unpainted options, and some good quality stuff for for a reasonable price. Their goal was $5,000, and they hit $27,130. So they scored big time with this. And if you got on board, let's see, they had add-ons that were available. So at the point where the campaign ended, you could pay a little bit extra to get some add-ons, and some of those that they unlocked were a cellar entrance, a lookout, basically a lookout tower, a fortified wall, and a sanctuary. So they were able to go the distance. They made their goal and then some. And if you got on board, you got some extra things that you could pay just a little bit extra for and add to your terrain options for your fantasy games. So that was by Nord Games, The Ruins of Glendale Village. So that was a success. And
me,
have a new pick for us. And what is that pick, Glenn?
That is so Vietnam, 1968. All right, you're elite soldiers on a special rescue mission. These are the things that happened in Vietnam. It's night, and there are werewolves. We are looking at Full Moon Jacket.
What?
A miniature board game where you play as soldiers having to fend off werewolves. It looks really cool. You get a bunch of minis in the box. It's 1 to 6 players, and yeah, it's co-op fighting to survive the night. They are looking for $45,775. They are currently at $40,291, so they're close. There's still 16 days to go. You can get a print and play version of the campaign book for £15, about $20. If you want the game, you can buy the game for $86. Now, and some people might say, oh, that's a lot for a board game. You get 42 minis in it.
Yeah.
So
I was just I'm kind of showing this. If you're checking us out on YouTube, I'm kind of scrolling through all the miniatures that you can get in this, and you've got your six players miniatures, but my God.
And then an army of werewolves.
It's a full-on army of werewolves. It's a ridiculous amount of miniatures, and if you're a miniature painter, this is probably I can't even. This would be a great opportunity to get into mass painting a huge army of werewolves. I mean, how often do you get that opportunity? One of the things, and when you're talking print and play now, especially for now that 3D printers are a bit more affordable and the quality is getting better for that lower cost, they actually have a version where you get the STL files. Basically, you get the files to print these things out if you wanted to, which I think is pretty cool.
Yep.
So, if you want to get on board with something like this with a great deal, and the miniatures are absolutely gorgeous. They are not. I think that we're seeing a lot more games coming out that have really high quality miniatures. I can't think of a game that we've talked about lately where the miniatures have kind of made us go, meh.
Yeah, the level that they can do now of detail with plastics, there's not even a reason to do metal minis anymore.
Yeah, there really isn't. Because it's really a kind of a I hate to use the word and not it sounds like I'm going to throw synergy into it, but it's kind of a lose-lose. If you do it in metal now, there's the cost of that material, which the metal is obviously way more expensive than plastic, and then you've got the added shipping weight for shipping metal miniatures. It's just
Yep.
there's no point to it now that we have better quality plastics, or at least plastics that can you can do more with sculpts and getting finer detail in that plastic. You're right. There's no reason to go metal anymore, really. So yeah, I've always wanted to where I'm not going to lie, and I'm not just saying that. Just to have a whole fistful of werewolves to be able to pull out for, especially for the White Wolf stuff that I like to play, to be able to go, oh, and here's a bunch of werewolves that show up. That would be great. So, you can obviously use these miniatures in other games as well. So $87. And is this EU friendly? I did not see that. Yes. It is US friendly, it's EU friendly and Canada friendly. So you're not going to pay exorbitant costs for getting this game shipped to you, which is very nice. And this is from Strangely Games.
Mm-hmm.
Have they created? Do they have other games out?
This, I believe, is their first one.
Okay. Wow, for a freshman entry, this looks very solid. Yeah. And quite honestly, the fact that they're, first time out, they're 16 days to go, they're less than $5,000. Well, I'm sorry, they're just a shade above $5,000 from their goal at this point. So were I a betting man, they're going to make it.
Yeah.
So
I would say so.
So yeah, this looks like something if you're into especially war type board games or supernatural type board games, this may be the game for you, especially if you like both. So that game is Full Moon Jacket, and it is and they use they've got like a hexagonal board basically that you piece together, which looks like it would be highly replayable. Well worth the $87. Well worth it. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Glenn.
Absolutely.
All right. So on that note, we are going to jump into talking about small gaming conventions. Now, like I said earlier, Glenn manages a game shop in the wonderful city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Well, in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area, I guess to be more accurate. And he has the opportunity to hit a number of conventions throughout the year. And like we had mentioned earlier, Gamehole Con in Madison took place this weekend, and you got to hit that.
I did.
So what do you think that a small gaming convention has over a larger convention like, say, Gen Con?
First I want to say that Gamehole Con is really starting to rocket past the small gaming convention.
Oh, cool.
It's really growing a lot, which is great. I mean, that's a great thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Yeah. And it's still small enough where there's it's not overwhelming. There's something about, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Gen Con, but it can be a very daunting thing, especially if you've never gone to a con before. And a small con is, I think, a great way for a first experience to get an idea of what conventions are about. still get vendors. Obviously, nothing is to the degree that would be at a bigger con like a Gen Con or an Origins or a PAX, but you still have vendors, so you can still check out some cool stuff. There's a lot of games being played, and in my experience, my personal experience, at a lot of the smaller cons is they'll have scheduled games. So, it's like, at 12 o'clock, at this table, they're doing Steam Park, and over at that table, they're playing Munchkin. Down in the RPG room, they've got D&D going on, and they've got some Pathfinder, and they've got, Eclipse Phase, whatever. And a lot of these cons, a lot of the sign up for a lot of them is day of. They'll usually have like sign up sheets on the tables. A few of the more organized ones will actually have it where you can sign up ahead of time. You can pre-register for some events. But because of the size of these cons, a lot of these events don't fully sell out all the time. So the positive is that it's very easy to get in and play the games that appeal to you. Now, the downside is that because it's smaller, obviously the selection is less. And also, because there's fewer people, sometimes a game won't fire because there wasn't enough bodies to fill the seats. So there's pros and cons to it. But I also have found that it's just a more welcoming environment in general at a smaller con. Because it's not just a big nameless crowd. It's like you can, a lot of these cons, like, for example, the one I go to, New Game of Palooza in Oshkosh, or there's Fire and Ice at Manitowoc. A lot of these smaller cons, you can see everyone from where you are practically. There's not like, it's not like spread out over, an entire exhibit center, where it's in 15 different rooms and then it spills over into the hotels and onto the football field. It's much more, I guess, tighter knit, for lack of better terms, and it's a lot easier to know the people who run the con. I mean, you might know like who the people in charge of Gen Con are, but the odds of you running into them on the floor is pretty slim. But at the smaller cons, you can run into the people that are running the cons. And the guests are much more approachable because the crowds aren't as big. And you can get into, when they have special guests, you can get in and see a lot of stuff because the halls don't fill up as quick because there's not, it's 1,000 people, not 60,000 people or 500 or 500 people. So it's a great little thing that I personally, as much as I love Gen Con, I like the smaller ones better because I tend to have more fun at them because I'm not stressing about having to make it to my next game because it's not like I finished this game and it's like this game went 2 minutes late. And you're like, great, I have to be all the way across the convention center and into the next hotel 5 minutes ago for my next game. And that can be really daunting. Whereas a small con, it's like, oh, we're running 2 minutes late. I can just yell over to the table that I play my next game at and say, I'll be right there. Because you can see it from where you're sitting. So there's those advantages. And then, of course, one of the biggest things is cost.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's the con itself is generally cheaper than like a Gen Con. I mean, understandably, because you're not getting the same experience. You're not getting as big an experience. And it's one thing that most smaller cons are good at. There's some that try when they first come out. They want too much money for what they offer, and those cons tend to not do well. If you're a fly by night, your first year out and you're trying to get $30 or $40 a day, I'm like, I'm probably not gonna give your con a chance. If it's a one room con, I'm not gonna drop $40 on that. If you're established, and I know people have gone there, and you can say this is the show we put on, then yeah, I might give it a shot. But generally, most of the small cons I go to, a lot of them are $10-15. Some of them it's like $20 for the whole weekend.
Yeah. Yep.
And generally, everything else is cheaper. Your housing is usually cheaper.
Yeah, I can only imagine what a hotel costs in Indianapolis during Gen Con. I can, especially if you want to be close to the convention center. I'm guessing like probably, somewhere upper 200s a night.
Well, at Gen Con, you're talking if you're downtown, rooms are easily 200 plus a night, easily.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's per person. You know, if you're like in a double, you're probably spending $300-400 a night for that room or more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas at Gamehole Con, I could have, I think the hotel that's attached was the Clarion. I think they had rooms for, I don't know what, I'm sure the con had some special deal. I could have booked a room that night. Friday night, I could have booked a room for about $140.
Wow.
And obviously, I'm not getting the best price because I'm booking the night of a busy
The night
con.
of, yeah. Yep.
But I could have booked that night for $140. If I didn't mind driving a little ways out, and by a little ways, I mean like 10 minutes away, I could have got a room for as low as $45.
Yeah.
That is basically a Motel 6, which, yeah, you're not getting much for that, but all I want is a bed.
Yeah.
A bed and a shower, and I'm good.
Yeah.
And the benefit, too, is that at these smaller cons, generally, like at Gen Con, you got to worry about parking. If you're not staying downtown, where are you parking your car when you drive in? Whereas at Fire and Ice and Gamehole Con and these other small cons, parking's easy.
Yeah.
At almost all of them, it's like you pull up into the lot, you park. Most of them you don't have to pay for parking, and if you do, it's you know, maybe I think at one con I had to pay $5 for the day.
Oh,
Park.
geez. That's
nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
I've paid more than that. I paid more than that going to Gen Con when I was in Milwaukee.
Back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just thinking about the times that like Anessa, Alex, and I have gone to Chicago and Minneapolis, paying for parking for your vehicle at the hotel. I mean, there's an added cost there, and it's definitely more than $5. Um, yeah. So, you know, especially if you've never gone to a con before, you want to get your feet wet. Doing a smaller con is definitely the way to go. I know here in Wausau, we've got EverCon, which is a cosplay and gaming convention. And they've got some comic book stuff there too. Tim Seeley, who he's done a number of things with Image Comics. And I think most recently, or the one that really pops into my head, is his comic Revival, which is a very interesting premise. And he's, you know, DC Everest Senior High School is his alma mater, so he'll come back here, you know, if his schedule allows it, and do EverCon. And they've done that at the DC Everest School for quite some time, and now they've moved it to a convention center that we have in the Wausau area, and the cost has gone up, obviously, because now they've got a larger venue to work with. And I know that there's been a little bit of concern at the cost hike, you know, with that move to the larger venue. While it's understandable, we're Wausau, you know, so I think that there's the perception that we're small town, so the higher cost isn't, some people don't feel is quite justified at the particular hike that they have. And I think it's mostly they're just used to, you know, paying, I think it was like 25 the last time, not last year, but the year before. And then it hiked up. So I think some of that is just people used to things being the way they were, and the higher price tag has got people spooked, and maybe they're just coming up with excuses. I don't know. But like you were saying, to be able to The likelihood that you would be able to bump into and maybe get some time to just chit chat with Tim Seeley at EverCon versus San Diego Comic Con or Gen Con, there's no contest. You know, there's going to be, obviously, like you said earlier, far fewer people. So that's got to be kind of cool. So if you go to something like Gamehole Con, let's say, because that just recently happened. How you mentioned the accessibility. Do you like if you got to like bump into like Rob Wieland or James Lauder or Keith was there, Keith Mateka.
Keith was there.
Yep. There's probably even a possibility that you'd be able to play a game with them at a smaller convention, which has got to be kind of cool. Were you able to play any games with some of those folks?
No.
Oh, shoot.
I mean, I played with Pat. So
yeah, there's that.
But I didn't even see Keith. By the time I got to the con, the exhibit floor, the exhibitors were all gone, or the exhibits. You know, most of the vendors were gone.
Sure.
But I did, I did play games. I mean, I did see a few people that I recognized as some game designers out and about. Frank Metzner, who is old school TSR. I saw what's his name? Bill Cavalier, the Dungeon Master guy. Who else did I see? I know I saw a few others. I'm just blanking on them. I was too busy hanging out with friends, having fun.
Yeah, there is that too. There is that too. I'm trying to think of besides GlenCon. It's been a long time since I've been to a game convention that I can think of offhand. By far the largest that I went to was Gen Con, but of course that was, I think the last time I went was 96 when it was still in Milwaukee. When did it move out to Indianapolis again? Was it 2000? Or no, it was before that. Was it 90?
No, it was 2001.
Okay. That's no, I did. I went in 2000. That's right. I went in 2000. Yeah. And I thought that was huge then.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what it's like being in Indianapolis now. Thinking back to how large it was in Milwaukee versus how large it is in Indianapolis, how much growth. Granted, in Milwaukee, it was spread out into a number of buildings.
As it is now.
Would you say
it's spread out? I mean, they took over the football stadium this year too.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. Would you? So obviously, it's. Would you say it's doubled in size since it's been in Milwaukee?
Yeah, it has.
Okay.
And it didn't initially. I mean, initially they kind of plodded along, not that much different, but then they started growing and growing and growing, and now it's it's easily more than double what it was its biggest year in Milwaukee.
Oh, wow. Okay. So all in all, a really good move for Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah. Except Wizards of the Coast is involved with it.
I thought
Wizards of the Coast has no presence at Gen Con at all. They no longer own it. They no longer run it. They haven't for a while.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
God.
they don't have a booth or anything. They have no presence at Gen Con.
Why?
Uh, Financially, it's probably just not worth it to them.
Huh. That's something.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that whether they're there or not, Magic the Gathering is going to get played. D&D is going to get played.
Oh, yeah.
It's also going to get sold. So I think part of it is why should we have our own booth when there are 12 other booths selling each of our different things already?
Yeah, I suppose.
And a lot of them probably selling it at discounts.
Yeah.
Yep. And then just the cost of having the booth, flying out the staff, all that stuff, it's not worth it to them.
They've already got the market penetration that they would have wanted anyway, and having their booth there isn't really going to add all that much to it. So yeah, I can see that. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. Huh. I thought I had my finger slightly on the pulse of Gen Con. Obviously not. Huh. Well, there you go. Anything else you want to add to the topic of small gaming conventions?
Other than I mean, I think they're worth checking out. I mean, I'm not saying you go to a small con, you're guaranteed to have the time of your life, but I think if you go in with the right attitude, knowing that okay, this is not going to be Gen Con. Yeah. I'm not going to have my choice of 40,000 different events to choose from. They're not going to have 200 celebrity guests. I'm not going to, I'm not going to have my choice of 3,000 different vendors. If you go in saying, I'm going to play some fun games with some people, and especially if it's local, you might meet people that you can play games with beyond just this little con.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I have friends now that I play games with occasionally that I met at some of these smaller cons that I would not have known otherwise. I mean, that's how I found out about the one in Oshkosh. Is I went to a small one at MSOE here in Milwaukee, and I met this one guy who was vending, the guy who was running some games, and they're like some of my best friends now.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, it's that's the thing is you can forge, and I'm not saying you can't forge friendships at Gen Con. I think it's just easier at a smaller con. Because if you meet someone there, it's easier to find them again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is a big part of it. And just the fact that, there's a good chance you're going to play games with people more than once as well. And I mean, yes, the downside could be if there is a complete, asshat at that con, your odds of running them are higher. But I also operate under the assumption that at any given moment, a good 10% of the people in the world are assholes. And if you're at Gen Con, that means there's about 6,000 assholes there. So, I mean, yeah, 54,000 other people are awesome, but percentage remains the same. You can run into bad people anywhere. So, and if you have a bad experience at a small con, talk to the people who run it. And a lot of times they'll be like, hey, thanks for letting us know. We didn't know this was an issue. Not always. I've run into some people. There was one con that no longer exists where some issues were brought up to them about particularly the way that some cosplayers were treated, to which they're like, hey, we can't police everyone's behavior. I'm like, that's kind of what you have to do. If you're going to be in charge of running this, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, that's kind of the deal.
Yeah. And then they did this whole, it was particularly with comments made to some cosplayers, one of which was like a 14-year-old girl, to which they tried to hide behind the standard thing of the, hey, freedom of speech, bro. I'm like, no.
Ouch.
So, yes, there can still be bad things, but overall, my experiences have been great.
Well, that's good. That's very good. All right. Well, thank you for talking about small gaming conventions, and obviously something you have a great deal of experience with. So yeah, if you find that there is a smaller gaming convention near you, you might want to hop in the car and check it out and see what it's all about.
Absolutely.
and bring some of your games with. You can do a pickup game. That's always fun. Find some people that might be interested in playing a game, or you could possibly hop in on a pickup game that somebody's just decide to play. And so you might have an opportunity to play a game that maybe you thought of playing or maybe never even knew existed, and you might find a new game that you'd want to add to your game library that you never would have considered before. So always a good thing. On that note, I think we're going to wrap things up here.
Right.
If you would like to chat with the hosts or other listeners of this Galactic Network podcast 24 hours a day, you can go to gncasts.com/signup. We'll add you to our Slack team, so you'll have the ability to interact with us in real time. Again, go to gncasts.com/signup. For more on this podcast, including show notes, contact info, and more, go to gncasts.com/adventure, or you can go to youtube.com and just do a search for either Adventure Party or Galactic Netcasts, and you will find us there for sure. If you have a question or comment about anything that you've heard on this Galactic Network podcast, you can email adventure@gncast.com. Wow. Okay. Leah, sorry.
Sorry. Was that directed at me?
No. It was directed at me.
Also, you pause. I'm like, am I supposed to finish the sentence for him?
No. I lost my spot. My eyes jumped a line. Yeah, let's start that over. If you have a question or comment about anything that you've heard on this Galactic Network podcast, email adventure@gncasts.com. And you can leave us a voicemail message by calling 805-328-3966, or you can text that number, again, 805-328-3966, or you can go to gncasts.com/contact. We do read, listen to, and appreciate all of the feedback that you do give us. Please subscribe to this Galactic Network podcast by going to gncasts.com/subscribe, or you can search iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, or other places where podcasts are offered. And finally, I want to thank Mark Wildridge of the Central Battery Music Works for our theme music. He's a musical genius. Check him out. So thank you very much, Glenn, for taking the time to chit chat with us this time about small gaming conventions. Where can people find out more about what you do and your RPG Mistrunner?
You can find out more about me by checking out my Facebook pages.
The B Movie Bunker, Guy in a Bunker Productions, Mistrunner the RPG, Demon Eater the RPG, Apocalypse Hall the card game. Check out guyinabunker.com, mistrunner.com. Go to YouTube and check out the B Movie Bunker and Guy in a Bunker Productions, or just follow me on Twitter at Guy in a Bunker.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us at the Adventure Party. May your characters never die and your adventures always be epic. Thank you, and good night.